Alright, so interrogation phase. So the reality is that the information I have actually does give the law enforcement a reason to do an interrogation. It does. In reality, the police force, with my structured, logical information, has the ability of doing 48 hours. And so, depending on who it is, essentially, my information revolves around people who structure themselves. And so, essentially, there'll be three players. There'll be a female pedophile, there'll be a male pedophile, and then there'll be an underage pedophile. But essentially, these are they're the guilty ones. This person is somewhat guilty, but they'll fold. They'll become state's witness. If you do this person will know everything about everything. And that basically, like, the female adult will fold on everyone, on everything. More than likely will know about most everything. And will be able to somewhat coherently speak about what they're doing. So that's so when it comes to the modern age of cop gang, a lot of cops are in cop gang. It gets in the way of shutting down cop gang. So an ability to isolate the blackmail's ability. See, if their devices are prevented, if there's AI sound speaker is prevented, and then if they're deprogrammed to the stupidness of what they're involved with, then that isolates the law enforcement. Because, see, basically, the reason this stuff continues with Deputy Gang has a lot to do with outward influence. So if you isolate this ability to blackmail and to sound torture, then essentially all the craziness that will come out of this person, essentially if you deprogram the law enforcement to what the realities of what this person's saying, see, everything that this person says will be, it'll be a boilerplate that the cops will understand. But if you deprogram the cops, then they'll understand what that woman is saying. And then if they say, well, actually, this stuff, then this person will go, oh, and then they'll change their testimony and it'll make more sense to them. And then they become a groomed, grooming, a groomed, grooming, groomed, state's witness, deprogrammed, state's witness, groomed. state's witness groomed. And so, a lot of times, the abilities to do things, lesser intellect people that are weird pedophiles, want to understand that to deprogram isn't actually grooming, but it does groom that person to say things logically and rationally about what they know about. And that grooming, these people groom, grooming, pedophile grooming, and that man grooming is to deprogram. It's to deprogram them. It means what they're saying, they just don't understand. And that then if you explain essentially what they're trying to say, essentially it'll make more sense to them internally, and then how you end up deprogramming them, and then they understand what they're involved with, and then they have a better testimony. And so the whole idea is that lawyers, they essentially attempt to deprogram to the stupidness and dumbness before they take the witness stand, kind of. And it's meant to get them to like understand what they're actually involved with, basically. And that there's nothing illegal or unethical about getting people to have a better understanding of what they're involved with. And so a lot of times that comes as the segue to that, a lot of times is the interrogation phase. It usually runs through law enforcement. And that if you deprogram your law enforcement to the types of things that they'll think about stuff, they'll just be dumb. They'll be gaslit and dumb. And if you deprogram them to what that stuff really means, then a deprogramming is to be like, well, you think this, but here's what it is logically. And then they're like, huh, that's what that is logically. And then their testimony, like, see, they'll tell you what they think. And then they're dumb. And then if you take what they're saying, you're like, well, these people tell you guys this stuff, but here's what that stuff really is. And it's like, oh, that's right, that is what that stuff is. And then that becomes their testimony. Instead of a stupid response, it becomes an uneducated response. And educated means deprogrammed. And that there's nothing unethical about that. See, to get a testimony means to get the truth in a logical way. And then if they suffer from illusions or deprogrammings or something, then if you deprogram them from that stuff, then they get a better understanding of what kind of weird psychos they're around. And there's nothing unethical. And this is kind of a caveated path for some of this more extensive deputy gang kind of stuff. And that you have to, the whole idea is that the interrogation person will be in deputy gang. And if he doesn't support logic and rationality, then he's deputy gang. And then that's where the investigation goes, wait a minute, that person is telling me crazy things. Deputy gang. And then the game is afoot. The game is afoot. Then it's a team run petabang. And then if the cop doesn't believe in like logic and rationality as the interrogator, then it's a team run pedo bang, and then the game is afoot. Then it's a Sherlock Holmes, and then it becomes a more extensive like conspiracy. Okay, conspiracy is a real crime. It's a real crime. One of the things that people say about the conspiracy thing is that it doesn't exist. The reality is conspirators look to place themselves as filters in places like this, and that the more the more you people team run pedo bang, the more you'll get Satan. Satan. Satan has freedom. No code of silence. There's no code of silence in Satan. There's no. See it. See how Satan has freedom. Freedom of press. Freedom of speech. What do they think? It's entertaining and informative and accurate. But it's entertaining. You see the eye. You see the hazel eye. Hazel eye. Hazel. Satan. Most of these people suffer from like massive satanic gaslights. Satan, the eye is always watching. And that I went and researched all the satanic gaslights that everybody suffers from. So I utilize those. Satan. Satan. Satan is always watching. Satan. Satan knows that you're not doing law. Satan knows. And that it'll break them down psychologically from doing their corruption. A lot of the corruption runs through like a satanic gaslighting. And then I attempt to figure out ways to break that stuff down psychologically so that they start to act normal. Act normal. Be normal. Roll over. Save yourself. They're gross. They're gross. You do things because you don't want your Mormon word to see you're being a skank. Being a skank is not worth them. And that's essentially where this is kind of somewhat. That's why I put female adult. It's like even team run pedo bang. Yeah. There'll be a child. There'll be a dude that looks like me. And then there'll be like a pretty cheerleader chick. And she'll just be like being skanky or something. Roll over on them. They're not worth it. Man's worth it. Man sucks the vagina. And fucks wish. For two. But that, like, the reality is that, you know, sometimes women are like involved with stuff that they think is like some sort of legal CIA-ish cop metro stuff. You know? They'll be doing a bunch of illegal stuff. And they won't want to go to prison. They won't really be doing that much. They'll be doing enough to keep their skankness from being seen. That's not worth it. Just let it be seen. Let the gays see your skankness. They're all skanks too. And watch how the liberal skank world, they'll prevent your skankness from being seen. They will. They will. And then vote Joe Biden. But that don't protect the... It'll be like a middle school and a high school kid and a male adult. And they'll be doing some really psycho-y shit. And then there'll be a woman that'll know about all of it. I mean, here's kind of the basic structure, but in the end, man fucks witch, subby. And that's maybe not really in this world that I'm talking about. Women don't get to think. Think. Protect yourself. Think for yourself. And protect yourself. Fold. Become state's witness, because you know what? If you might have done some illegal stuff, there'll always be a man around that'll explain why you did anything. That's what the states will know. They'll already know. Because there's always a man around knowing everything. There's always a man who knows that the maintenance man that wears the white clothes in that church, Satan. Satan. Satan knows exactly who the guilty one is. Satan knows everything.